And we are live. Tonight, guys, I got a special treat from you. I'm going to switch gears here a little bit, and we're going to talk the salt. And with me tonight, I have a saltwater angler who fishes in a kayak. And I think that's cool. I do a lot of saltwater fishing, and what I can truthfully say to you is I haven't been saltwater fishing since yesterday. So, man, Ryan and I got a lot to talk about. I'm going to give you another under than Vector Hooks Pro, Ryan Snyder. How you doing tonight, Ryan?
I'm doing great, Jay. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. Man, I don't know if you saw the pictures on Facebook at my Facebook. We caught speckled trout one after another, 25 knot winds, 5 guys on a 21-foot boat. But, you can only do that. The guy the charter boat captain, knows that all of us, he's tried to fish with most of us before. He knows we know how to fish because, 5 guys who don't know what they're doing on a boat, asking for trouble. But,
especially on a 21-foot boat, that can.
Yeah. Well, you always got to be mindful where everybody else is. And if I'm crouched down trying to rig up, and hey, man, I'm behind you, And we didn't have any mishaps, of course. Particularly with winds that high, man, things can get a bit dangerous. But nothing happened. I mean, I'll tell you what, I'm still reeling from this. I couldn't concentrate on work, not that I ever can, anyways. But I was just thinking about that, and people were coming to my office. How'd you do, man? I heard you were fishing. I'm showing them pictures.
That's usually the best part of any fishing trips, going to work the next day and showing off.
Yeah. That's why I call my show Let's Talk Fishing.
Yes, sir. I got out this weekend myself for a little bit. We finally had some good weather.
Let's hear about that, man. Let's hear about it.
So we started our Saturday in the kayaks, me and my friend Griffin. We ran down. I live in Jacksonville, Florida. We went south just a little bit, almost to St. Augustine. There's this pretty unique fishery down there. There's a saltwater lake called Lake Iguana.
Is it connected to the Gulf?
It is connected to. I'm on the East Coast, so it's connected out to the Talamato River, I believe is what they call it. It dumps. It's connected, but it's not. It's dammed off. So they only let water in through the dam certain times of the year, and it's a pretty unique ecosystem. From what I've been told, it was originally dug as the potential freshwater source for Ponte Vedra, the local town there. And when they broke ground on it, they quickly realized, because it's right on the beach.
Saltwater intrusion, right?
Yes, there is no fresh water there. It's a hypersalinic lake.
I have a master's degree in fluvial geomorphology, and one of the things we studied was we had to study groundwater too. And that's one of the things we studied was saltwater intrusion.
Yeah, so I mean, there's just a road separating the edge of the lake to the beach. I mean, it's 500 yards to the beach. So when they realized that it wasn't going to work as a freshwater source, they did realize that it was a hypersalinic lake and that it was kind of a unique ecosystem.
Cool. So what'd you
get? In there, we're targeting gator trout. I mean, the biggest trout that live in the state of Florida pretty much live in that lake.
25-inch plus?
We're talking 30 plus.
Holy shit.
Yeah, they get pretty large in this lake. It's a very, very shallow lake, and it's very well managed as far as they'll drain it every year and allow that salinity level to come back because, you got fresh water coming in with the rain and all that.
Sure.
So they allow that salinity level to come back up, and they'll re-flood it with salt water every year. And what that does is it prevents red tide from happening.
So 30-inch trout. How big is this lake? What do they eat?
It's a 9-mile long by about, at the widest point, I believe it's about a half a mile, maybe not quite a half a mile wide. And I mean, it's a straight shot. I mean, it faces due north, due south. There's a dam on the south end of the lake where they let salt water in, and then there's a dam on the north end of the lake where they let water out. They're feeding mostly on mullet in there, but there are shrimp. What ends up happening is whenever they flood the lake, the fish all come in through the dam, and once they're in, they're in. They
Yes.
can't get back out. The big upside to this lake and the reason that the fish grow so big is the lack of predators. The only predator in the lake, to my knowledge, is alligator.
Ryan Snyder.
Oh, well, I released him over 20. I'm behind that movement. I know a lot of people have gotten behind that on the trout. Let the big girls go, let them breathe.
I'm just being funny, man. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. But the only predator in the lake is alligators.
Ooh.
There's no dolphins and there's no sharks in the lake.
No dolphins, man. Jeez.
Yeah, and that's huge. I mean, because a dolphin can catch any fish. An alligator can't catch every fish one.
No, an alligator can't catch those. Those trout are fast, man.
Oh, yeah. So the alligators, from what I understand, mostly feed on the big black drum that are in the lake.
Yeah, and they can have those.
They're slow and lazy. And
big uglies.
Yep. So
you call them that in Florida? You call them big uglies?
Yep. Yeah, so we got in that lake, there's trout, there's redfish, there's a few flounders, not a whole lot of flounder, but there are some in there. Typically, if you get one, he's pretty big. Then there's the black drum, and you'll get occasionally there'll be a tarpon in there.
Tarpons. What about redfish?
There's plenty of redfish in there. Yeah, we started the morning throwing topwater at first light. We were on the water by 6:15 a.m. Official sunrise was until 7:20-ish. And it was a super cloudy day, so we threw topwater most of the day. Started the morning about 300 yards from where we launched. Third cast, got a 25-inch redfish.
Dang!
On the top water. Which
now, why don't you just one thing I want to tell these people, for those of you guys who have caught speckled trout, once they get over about 23 inches, they're a completely different animal. I mean, they fight, they hit so hard, and they fight. I've only caught a couple of specks over 20, over 23. Biggest one being 25. You just don't get them. Unless you go to Venice in Louisiana, you just don't get them that big. But
yeah,
Ryan will attest to this, man. When I hooked at that 25-incher, I thought, man, what is this? This is either a bull drum or a bull red. And then I was thinking, because I was using my surf casting rod, which is just a cheap thing that I take out into the surf because you don't want to take a $300 reel out there. and, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it in on this cheap stuff, And I brought it in, and I saw, man, that's a trout. Get that thing in here now. I need pictures. I need pictures of this thing.
Yeah,
God, it just
they're a whole other animal when they get that size. We did get a couple decent fish for the lake. We had a 21-inch trout and we had a 24-inch trout. And the weird thing with the ones in that lake, when they get to that size, they lose all their spots.
No way.
Yeah,
it looks like a.
I mean, I don't know how to describe it.
A white trout,
Yeah, I mean, they almost have no spots. There's still spots left on their fins and on their tail, but on their body, they're spotless. I mean, it is kind of unique. And my buddy that fishes that lake quite often says that it's in like an inbred population almost because
sure
they're trapped. I don't know how true that really is. I mean, it definitely could be true, but yeah, they grow very large in there. And I had one that hit the top water probably about 20 feet off the bow of my kayak at about 9 o'clock that morning, and I was shaking for an hour.
Oh,
he came up, he hit the top water, and all I could see is an orange mouth about that big, and he left a 3-foot hole in the water behind him. And totally missed top water, blew the top water out of the water. I mean, they're in there. They're big.
So you caught some big ones on them. Okay, we have a question here from Tail Chaser Bait. That's Chris Cochran. He has his own soft plastics. He's from New Orleans. He wants to know, what do you throw when using there you go, man. You see that, Chris?
I like in that lake. I like to throw the little Miradines, 17 MR.
Miradines, okay, very good choice.
I forget what color that is. My buddy really likes the emerald green.
Well, that was kind of pink and white. I mean,
this is a hand painted. I don't know. He's buying the blanks, but it's a local guy here in Jacksonville. He's hand painting them. I've been throwing that guy a lot. I mean, that's a real dark, but it has a lot of flash to it.
So is that a glide bait?
What's that?
Is that a glide bait?
It's just like a Miradine, same kind of style. This one's kind of beat up too. This is another local guy.
Twitch stop.
Yep. So this is another local guy here in Jacksonville. He actually hand carves these. These are carved out of wood.
That's a balsa,
and they're actually silent.
Kind of like the old Rapalas, huh?
Yeah. So that's a balsa bait there. Outside of that, if I'm not throwing hard baits, one of my go-tos is that's a Bass Assassin SW Curly Tail on
Curly Tail
on the eye strike fishing jig heads there.
Okay, Tail Chaser Baits he says good deal about your choice of a Miradine.
You can't go wrong with the mirror lures, and then I really like to support the local guys as much as I can.
So how clear is this water you're fishing?
In Lake Iguana, it's pretty dirty. You can't even see the bottom in 1.5 feet of water.
Okay, so that's pretty clear as far as the Louisiana marsh.
Yeah. When I fish the marshes in the river, where we range anywhere from like 2 to 6 foot of visibility, which is not bad. I mean, it's good enough to sight fish when you get up shallow.
Sure.
Here's another very unique.
Look at that.
So this is another local guy here in Jacksonville. His name's Will Neiman. Makes these, and I think he calls them what does he call these? Something buck. It's a swing head bucktail style jig, but if you notice, you tie up on this end and your hook's on the top. So when you're bouncing that thing through an oyster bar,
yes,
it doesn't snag. I mean, this thing, I was really surprised. I threw it in some places I wouldn't throw anything else, and still have it. That thing's pretty sweet, and it's an action that a lot of fish, haven't really seen in those places. So
are you going to put soft plastics on that, or are you going to just use it?
No, you work it just like that, just like a bucktail jig.
That does look like the old bucktail jigs from the 70s. But except the bucktail isn't a swing thing like that. It doesn't pivot.
Yeah, so that thing moves around like crazy under the water. I mean, it's pretty insane.
So you throw that thing right into an oyster bed and it doesn't tangle up in the oysters?
Not very often. Excuse me. As long as you're popping it up off the bottom, it pretty much runs snag free through the oysters. Obviously nothing's 100% snag free.
Of course, nothing is 100%. Yes.
I'm trying to get actually just the jig head from him. You see it's got a little loop there. The hook's attached to.
Yes.
I want to put the Vector Hooks Kale hook on the back of that.
What are you going to put on the Kale hook?
Usually I'll fish like a live bait, mud minnow, or a finger mullet for flounder fishing.
Okay.
Because I like having my bait right on the bottom when I'm flounder fishing, and that Kale hook, there's something about it when it comes to flounder. Once it's in there, it ain't coming out.
It's very difficult to unhook a fish with a Kale hook, I think.
Yeah. So I've had my best hookup ratio though by far.
Mud minnow, those also called cockahos?
What's that?
Have you ever heard the term cockaho minnow?
No.
Okay, that might just be a Louisiana thing, but I think those are mud minnows. They look kind of like cichlids.
These are they almost like a mullet almost. They're kind of
they're
round and long and fat.
Are they silver then?
They're kind of like a silverish black top, silver on the belly. They can get some stripes on them depending on, the bigger ones typically have stripes.
Okay. Yeah. You know, what we catch our biggest ones on is the Pogies.
The Pogies are definitely good. We don't see them a whole lot in our inshore waterways. I did go out Sunday on a boat. We went looking for cobia, and
Woo! Fun, huh?
Pogie pods were everywhere. I mean,
Oh
there
yeah, I
was,
went out red snapper fishing one time, and I mean, I was asking what's busting the surface. And they said Pogies. I'm like,
yeah, they're just showing up for us here right now, the Pogies, and I mean, they are thick. It's crazy. But every pod we pulled up on in hopes that there'd be some cobia or Spanish mackerel or something under, and it's just sharks, lots of sharks.
no.
Yeah, we lost a lot of cobia jigs Sunday. It wasn't fun.
I've caught a couple of sharks, mostly surf fishing. That's always kind of disconcerting when you look out.
Yeah, you think you got a big redfish, and then
Yeah, real big redfish. I never felt one run like this before. And I'm like, no, it's first thing I think is Jack Crevalle. Then, oh no, shark, cut the line.
hopefully it cuts you off.
Yeah, I hope so. You know, I usually just grab the line, but you know, I use 30-pound mono, and I should probably use braid while surf fishing, but I just can't spool a reel that big with braid. It's just too expensive. And
Yeah. So I mean, it just depends. Like, I fish spinning reels on the surf, and I'm actually getting ready to purchase a magnetic controlled cast conventional. When I get a conventional, I'm gonna throw mono.
Sure.
Definitely cast better on a conventional. On the spinning reel, the braid just. I mean, all my stuff is rigged with braid. All my inshore stuff, like.
Oh yeah, the stuff I use out of boats, it's all braid. And you know, down here in Louisiana, you can tie direct because the water is not clear.
Oh yeah. See, down here we definitely can't get away with that. We fish 20-pound fluorocarbon leaders.
Okay.
That's Diamond Fishing Products. That is outside of me. I work at I'm pro staff with Vector Hooks, but then my day job is working at Diamond Fishing Products.
Okay.
And we pride ourselves on our line and our leader material. So for my twitch baits, soft plastics, everything like that, 20-pound presentation fluorocarbon. For my top waters, I go with the Momoy High Catch monofilament. So that way you're not, the fluorocarbon sinks, the mono floats.
Yes.
For braid, I mean, I just showed you these before we started the show. We got some pretty cool new products that just hit the loading dock today, and I think a lot of people are gonna like these. At least guys that like their college sports. So we've got an LSU yard line. So every 50
no way.
Every 50
oh
feet,
man,
it changes colors.
These boys down here in southern Louisiana are going to go nuts.
Louisiana guys are going to like that. For the guys out in Alabama, got your roll tide.
Man,
Sorry, I'm getting used to this camera thing here.
You have such a good braid, and then you put that on it.
Yeah, and then the Florida guys,
Gators, all right.
Gonna run with the Gators.
There you go. There you go.
That is on top of that's the same formula as our normal braid that we carry in a green, a blue, which I like the blue, and then the orange for your high vis conditions. So surf fishing, I use orange. I love the orange in the surf because you can really, really see where your line is as far as being, if you're in the break or if you're outside, if you're in the cuts and where you need to be.
I like to stand between jetties,
Yeah, here we look for the runouts.
Yes, but you don't want to stand in the runouts.
Yeah, you want to be right. You want to be right in that runout with your bait on the outgoing tide, and
but don't stand in it.
No, don't stand in it.
Way over there, yeah.
Yeah,
way over there.
Diamond Fishing Products been around for quite a few years, but the where they started was in commercial fishing, long lining to be specific, and in that industry they've been in it for 34 years.
Wow.
Supplied all the gear on the boats in the Perfect Storm movie. which is pretty cool. They Warner Brothers approached him, was like, hey, we want to make it look as real as possible, for the movie, and they were like, oh, we can help with that. So that's where they got their start, and then there were everybody was like, wow, you guys make a really good line, and it's kind of led into the recreational fishery. And our stuff is definitely more targeted towards offshore, marlin, wahoo, sailfish, all this, but we do have a lot of the inshore stuff, and now we're actually getting into the bass scene. We just signed a professional bass angler to our team. A lot of people would probably know him, Mr. Brian Latimer.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Everybody knows him.
Oh, yeah. So he's part of Team Diamond now, working on a fluorocarbon line with him. Problem's been, raw materials for fluorocarbon.
Yeah, that everybody's having problems with that. Right
yeah.
And it's going to get worse, but I don't want to talk about that on the podcast.
Yeah, part of the industry, but we'll get past it.
Any tournaments lately?
I fished a tournament. Let's see, was that 2 weekends ago?
Okay.
Tournament, yes. It was a inshore kayak tournament. There was 87 anglers.
Wow, that's not a bad size for a tournament.
It's pretty large turnout. That was the Extreme Inshore Kayak Challenge, and it was here in Jacksonville. You were allowed to fish anywhere inside of Clay County, Nassau County, or St. Johns County.
Wow.
So you could pick up, you can move, you could do your thing. Obviously, moving meant time off the water, but you got to do what you got to do sometimes, especially in my case where I found a really good trout bite up on the northern end of the boundary while I pre-fished the weekend before, and I had a really good redfish about midsection of the boundary, about a 25-minute drive from where I started my morning. I was a little disappointed when I showed up at the launch. We were allowed to put in the water at 6 a.m. I showed up about 5:15 a.m. and there was 4 other trucks with their kayaks waiting. And as we got closer and closer to the 6 o'clock mark, it turned into 8 other kayakers. So I was launching.
That's tournament fishing, man.
Yeah, so I kind of figured that since I was to that north end of the boundary, I wasn't going to have too much competition up that way. But, man, I was mistaken. I had 8 other guys fishing a small creek with me, and there was a small section of that creek that was really producing, and they knew it. A lot of them were kind of sitting around waiting for the sun to hit the horizon. I said, enough of this. At 6:05, I pushed off in the pitch black. I had all my safety lights and all that on, but pushed out, started throwing topwater, and I got a 16-inch trout to start my morning within about 5 casts. So I thought I was off to a really good start. I said to myself, this is where it starts, and let's keep this bite going. And from there, it kind of went downhill. The weather was the problem. As the sun started to hit the horizon and get up, the wind started to crank.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and we knew it was coming. I pre-fished the weekend before in 15 to 25 mile an hour sustained winds, and I did pretty good. So I figured it's kind of the same conditions. I had a pretty good shot. I had a good idea of where the fish were. So I continued to fish. The wind picked up. It picked up, and I had a few missed opportunities on some big redfish. And so this tournament was a slam tournament.
Sure.
You were allowed, it was a catch photo release tournament. You had to measure in 2 redfish within this legal slot limit. 5.
What is the legal slot limit?
Here in Florida, it's 18 to 27 inches.
18 to 27. Okay.
Yeah. And then we were allowed to weigh in 5 trout in the legal slot limit, which is 15 to 19 inches, but you're allowed to have 1 over 19. And then 5 flounder, which is a minimum 14 here, no max. Flounder has always been my arch nemesis here. I can't seem to put a pattern to them. So I already knew I was going to have a problem with that, but I knew I had my redfish dialed in and I had a pretty good trout bite going. So
what'd you catch the reds on?
I had one big red trying to eat a topwater, and as most people may know that have tried to catch redfish on topwater, they are really terrible at eating them.
You ever seen one turn over and grab it?
I haven't. They always try to come above it, and
they miss all the time, and sometimes they get like hooked, foul hooked.
Yeah, and what happens a lot of times is when they try to come above it, their face will actually push the topwater out of their way as they're trying to get over it. And so I had this fish, probably hit it 5 or 6 times, just couldn't get it. And I tried to, by the time I grabbed a live mullet out of my bucket and pitched it up there, he had moved along. He had enough.
So I was going to say, you might want to have a swim bait,
Yeah, I carried 5 rods in the kayak, so I had my options. I went with the live bait, and he moved along. Fished hard, continued to fish hard, caught a lot of 13-inch trout, 14-inch trout that I couldn't measure in. Low tide hit, and I found some redfish pushing up in the mud, like real shallow, tails out, backs out of the water, chasing mullet, chasing shrimp. And the wind had picked up significantly at this point. I was probably in about 15 to 20 sustained, gusting 25.
Wow.
And I made a really bad cast on a school of about 5 redfish.
Oh.
You couldn't hit him on the head any worse than I did. Blew the whole school out. And
all you saw were swirls, huh?
Yeah, at this point, I said, all right, it's time to move. I knew if I could go get my 2 redfish, I'd have a lot more time to focus now on the trout and the flounder. So I made the 25-minute drive.
Yeah.
And may have made it there a little quicker than what GPS said, but that's nonetheless. Got down there, and the parking lot was completely full. I couldn't launch.
No.
I couldn't launch. It's in a residential neighborhood. If I would have parked on the grass, on somebody's grass, truck probably would have been towed by the time I got back, and that would have been the end of my tournament day. So I couldn't launch there. I went about 10 minutes up the road to the next launch where I was pretty confident. I had some pretty good days red fishing up there too, but I didn't pre-fish that area. I knew where I usually had caught them. I went and hit all my usual spots, and I couldn't buy a redfish bite to save my life. I mean, I threw a finger mullet on the bottom, every lure I had in my box. I mean, this is an area where I caught 47 redfish in a single day. Throwing artificial. So I knew that they were, that they would come through at the perfect conditions, at an incoming tide, the spots I fished. It's just kind of like a highway, and I just couldn't make it happen. I ended up getting a 21-inch trout out of one of my redfish spots, which helped. But now I'm sitting there with a 16-inch trout and a 21-inch trout, and I don't have anything else to put with them. The wind now had picked up even more. I was fishing 25 sustained, gusting upwards of probably, they had to be upwards of like 35-mile-an-hour gusts.
Yeah, that's what I was fishing in yesterday. Yeah.
I had some gusts hit me in the side of the kayak that actually, tipped me over to the side. If I had been leaning out that way of the kayak when those gusts hit, I would have rolled. It was pretty hairy. We were allowed to fish, and we had to be back at weigh-in by 6 o'clock. I called it at 4. I said, that's enough. I'm beating myself up out here. Been out since 6 a.m. I'm gonna call it quits and hope that everybody else had the same luck. Went and weighed in. Was one of the earlier people to weigh in, and I ended up finishing 24th out of 87.
Okay, top quarter.
And from 38th all the way to the bottom of the list, didn't weigh anything in.
Woo!
It was, there's a lot of heavy hitters that are locals that fished this tournament, and there was a lot of guys from out of town. You had guys from as far as Texas. Fishing this. Yeah. And everybody struggled except for the top couple of guys. The guy that won ended up measuring 144 inches. I had 37 inches. So he got on him. After talking with him, it sounds like he was down on the southern end of the boundary. I had a front move over about 9 a.m. And that's when my bite died. And like I said, I was all the way on that north end of the boundary. And he was down towards the south end. And that front just gave him a little bit more time, I guess. And, it's fishing. There's nothing you can do about it.
That is fishing.
Tournament fishing, especially. I mean, you got to fish the conditions that are given to you and make the best of it.
That's what I like to tell. When I was guiding, I would tell people, and they're like, well, I see your pictures, and I say, you're not playing a fishing video game here, man. This is real world.
Yeah.
You can't control these factors, and that's what I like about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's what keeps you coming back and keeps you on your toes.
You got to be able to adapt and overcome. If you can't do that, you don't catch fish. And, you can't – there are days when I can't buy a fish.
Yeah.
And, I've been fishing. I have 50 years of experience, so –
yeah, I mean, being able to adapt is definitely the biggest advantage you could have in the fishing world, whether you're just recreational fishing or you're tournament fishing. I mean, if you like to catch fish, you got to be willing to move. You got to be willing to change things up and do things differently. I mean, thinking outside the box sometimes is the best thing to do.
Let me ask you this. One thing I've seen the guys around here, when they're fishing for trout, they're looking for clean water. And they're willing to move, do an hour run to someplace that they think might be cleaner. Then when they find the clean water, they want to find moving water, a windswept point.
Yeah.
It's a little deeper, That is that what you look for too?
I don't necessarily look for clean water. Being that a lot of the places I fish are right off the St. Johns River, or the northern end, the end of the St. Johns River, not the freshwater end of it. But we get a lot of dirty water, and I think I can actually, let's see here. I think I can share. I've got the map pulled up. So let's see if it'll allow me to do this. Perfect. Is it showing my screen now?
It is not.
No. Oh, here we go. What the heck? Oh, there we go. There it is. So, pull the map up here, and I'll kind of go over what I'm looking for.
Oh, let me see. There we go. Look at that. How did you do that?
I hit the little share button down in the corner. Let's go to satellite. There we go.
So you said share screen or
yeah, I hit share screen.
Okay, so you didn't do slide?
No, did share screen. And then I chose to do the entire screen. So I might be kicking myself in the butt here a little bit because some of my spots are on here. You can see all the blue dots.
A little better like this?
What's that?
This is a little better like this?
Ooh.
There we go.
Can you see it good?
Yeah.
All right. So this is the area I'm fishing. Greater Jacksonville is over here. This is downtown Jacksonville, and you can see the St. Johns River runs to the north and then runs to the east, and it dumps out of Mayport Inlet here.
Sure.
I like to fish these areas down here in the marsh. I mean, you can see all just how scattered out how this water is. This is all marsh grass all in here. I mean, this is nothing but marsh grass. And let's see. So this is one of my local launches. Ignore the blue dots. It's not where I catch fish. I can promise you. No.
Oh, yeah.
So what I'm looking for a lot of times is the main current in this waterway kind of flows down these wider channels. On an incoming tide, it's coming down this way. And I'm just looking for these little points like this right here. It's going to have a deeper hole somewhere along here. And I have a depth finder on my kayak. So I know for a fact that hole is right in this zone right here. and that current comes around that point on an incoming tide, and the redfish, the trout, the flounder, they all hold up in that hole because the current kind of passes over their head, and they're just waiting, they're ambushing. Now, in like the lower tides, a lot of these little fingers are drained. There's no water in any of these little fingers. So all the fish get forced into this main channel along here, and makes it a lot easier. If you can find a deeper hole along those main channels during the low tide, they're just, I mean, loaded up with fish. The key is knowing where the hole is and staying off of the hole. But yeah, I mean, the clean water doesn't seem to matter a whole lot with our our trout fishery. Now, this area up here in the north and here does get really clean, and the trout are pretty thick up there. I don't catch a whole lot of redfish up there, though. I think the redfish definitely prefer the dirtier water.
Yes.
But, I mean, as you can see, we have miles and miles of just endless marsh. And a lot of it, you know, doesn't get a whole lot of pressure because a lot of the boats can't get in there.
No.
All right, let's see. Now how do I turn this off? There we go. So that's kind of what I look for when I'm fishing for trout, redfish. I don't really go out and target trout a lot. I like my redfish. I enjoy eating redfish a lot more than
I sure do. I sure do too, man.
And
I like
flounder. Oh, if I can dial in the flounder, that's all I'd eat.
Well, there's so many things you can do with flounder. I like stuffing them with crab meat. And
yeah,
with redfish, I like to keep their skin on and just throw them on the grill. You know.
Now I know a lot of people don't do this, but I'll bleed my redfish.
Yes, you should. You should. Then you
I bleed every redfish I catch. It really helps the quality of the meat. It makes it much whiter. And I'll always cut the bloodline out of a redfish as well.
Do you bleed them as soon as you catch them?
Typically, I drag them with me for the day because I'm on the kayak, so I don't have a.
With all the sharks you have down there in Florida, you're gonna drag around redfish?
I ain't worried about the sharks. I used to be a commercial spear fisherman, and sharks were the least of your worries. We used to carry dead fish around with us all the time. It was the moray eels and the barracudas you had to watch out for.
I've heard that.
And the morays will sneak up on you. That's the thing. You'd be looking in a hole, looking for a grouper, and next thing you know is an eel right in your face. They got nasty teeth. Ooh.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, the sharks kind of stay away. They don't bother me. Even if a shark did come up and grab my stringer on the kayak, I use a rope stringer, not a cable one. Like you'll see a lot of the wade fishing guys use a cable one. I will never use a cable stringer. Shark grabs that, you're going with him. Shark grabs a rope stringer, he just cuts it off and off he goes. And so I'll drag them around with me throughout the day. Typically, like a redfish will stay alive all day on a stringer, flounder as well. Trout typically end up dying at some point.
Trout die if you yell at them, man.
Yeah, they really do. But I don't like eating trout. They're kind of soft. They're kind of mushy. I give them to one guy at work. He likes them. If I got to fry it to keep it in one piece, I give it away.
Sure. Hey, Ryan, do you have any shout-outs you'd like to do? Any thank you or people who've helped you?
I mean, a big shout-out to Vector Hooks and the Diamond Fishing Products. Diamond helps me out with all of my tournaments. All the line and the leader that I use is all Diamond Fishing Products, and I'm given that. It's one of the perks of working there. But they do pay for my entry fees into most of the tournaments I fish. And without them, I probably wouldn't have fished that one last weekend. I wasn't going to fish it until they offered to pay for the entry fee. Vector Hooks is definitely a big help to me. They supply me with the best hooks on the market, hands down.
Those dang tornado trebles they're too sharp. Freaking tornado trebles.
I got them on every bait I fish.
So do I.
Tell you what, if you're a kayak angler, be very, very, very careful with your Vector hooks and your tornadoes. Yes. The other ones I fish a lot, the Mutsu style circle hooks, the SSW style J hooks, and I don't have any because JB is out of them. But the kale, the kale thing is awesome. Outside of that, just big, huge shout out to all my friends and my family who support me and push me to do what I love. Been in the fishing industry for going on close to 10 years now.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
In the fishing industry since I moved out of my parents' house and graduated high school. I've worked in the fishing industry, and that's taught me a lot. And if it weren't for my family and my friends pushing me to do what I love and keep at it, I wouldn't be where I am now. So,
well, man, it was a pleasure having you on the show, man. You did a good job. You gave us all kinds of information that, man, people can really use.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
I enjoy helping anybody. If I got to help anybody, please reach out to me on Facebook. If you got any more questions, find me on Facebook, shoot me a message. I'm always happy to help.
Well, Ryan, man, stick around. I'm gonna stop the podcast now. I'd like to talk to you for a couple minutes afterwards.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to thank everybody. I'd particularly like to thank Ryan for taking time out of his busy schedule to come and talk to our viewers here on the Let's Talk Fishing podcast. And I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to Let's Talk Fishing podcast. And with that, my name is Jay Angel. I was your host with very special guest, Ryan Snyder from the Atlantic coast.
Yes, sir.
Lord.
Jay, thanks for having me on, and thanks to everybody watching. Hopefully I helped somebody out tonight.
Well, thank you. Thank you.